What's something everyone around the world isn't getting mad enough about? The climate change is more out of control than tomorrow cells. Everyone's good at saying back in my day it was colder, but with Trump and Xi in politics we can't do shit. We're doing some appeasement policy towards Russia knowing damn well this is the only solution that won't wipe us out. The clowniest election in the contemporary history of the United States is approaching, and we're blasting each other on which candidate should win. If some rights are discussed today, it's for medieval biases, outdated biases that a lot of people still believe in. Trash education measured by test performance. The world could get right with itself pretty damn quickly if we weren't training generation after generation to play out the education theater. That is 99 of schooling. Read at a 4th grade level and retain information long enough to scrape by on a test. But that's all you need to set up the next generation of worker bees. So there's no incentive to do any better. Crude oil is finite. Such a simple concept. I bet if you ask around you'll get blank stares. The entire global economy functions on it. There are currently no active plans on what to do going into a decline. Every time you get a smart group of academics to bring this up, they just get kind of pushed in the corner and it's back to business as usual. We will think about that problem again in 5 or 10 years. Also noteworthy, humans have a habit of expanding until we collapse. Case in point, history. There's a coordinated effort by a group of wealthy industrialists and propagandists to prop up far-right entities and governments, selling resources to England, the United States, Turkey, India, Israel, Australia, New Zealand, and other countries to fund far-right extremists or prop up far-right governments with targeted propaganda. In New Zealand, for example, there are direct links between Bannon's organizations and the Christchurch shooter. Just about everything, climate change, unlimited powerful companies and billionaires. Real people still starving. Billions of people struggling in one or other way. Wars, genocides. Every single one of those things should make us riot. And I mean rioting like in the French Revolution, but I guess every one of us is just too scared, or too individualistic. I don't know. Greta Thunberg's How You Dare speech should be our I Have a Dream, but I think nobody cares or even remember it. The laws about abortion. It's a somewhat contentious topic. In many states, getting an abortion is strictly prohibited, yet it is legal in others. Abortion should be permitted everywhere, in my opinion, though obviously this depends on your personal or religious beliefs. It should be your choice whether or not to keep the child if you are a woman expecting someone else's child. That's something you ought to discuss with yourself in private. Let women use their bodies any way they like. The ancient Greeks had more leisure time than we have today. Even though we have more resources and technology, they had so much free time they started Western civilization. They were that bored. Imagine having the technology and resources to feed every human on the planet, but throwing most of it away because they didn't sell. Capitalism has failed us, and we don't do anything about it because we're all too busy working our shitty jobs and too tired because we work too much. Drinkable tap water, you can drink it, but the taste and everything is horrible. I know that it is clean enough to consume, and you probably won't die from it. And it is probably a first world problem, but just goddamn everywhere you live you hear from the neighbors don't drink the tap water because of XYZ issues with it. Just to clarify, at my home the old water tower had literal dead pigeons in it, and no one cleaned, etc. It was not a problem in their minds. Sociopaths in positions of power. For real, we know how to solve nearly all of the problems facing the world except that one. We have sociopaths in power. They don't care about who they hurt. They don't care about outcomes unless it benefits them. And they thwart all our efforts to fix the major problems we all face because they profit from letting them continue. I ask people IRL, where do you see your grandkids in 50 years? The answers I get are uncomfortable. Climate change, wars, AI, etc. People think something bad's gonna happen. They don't have hope for the future. They just let it go without fighting for it. Your blood should be spilled in the streets before you allow your children's future to be taken away. The ridiculous rent and real estate price increases. The same to be our apartment I rented in the late 90s for $400 now goes for $1,200. First house I bought in 2004 for $92,000 sold recently for $285K. In 20 years prices have practically tripled. Why aren't people pressuring their politicians to do something or calling on the media to report on this more? Climate change. Corporate greed. Saudi Arabia is building a giant building 100 miles x 100 stories with an enclosed environment. They sold enough oil to make their country uninhabitable, then take the money and build essentially a domed city like we would need on Mars. Those not allowed into the city will die of heat in a few years. Porn addiction. People, particularly men, are more and more getting their sexual satisfaction via fantasy versus reality. This has a mental health impact on those addicted related to loneliness and depression. It also creates unrealistic desires, expectations of sexual partners by changing brain chemistry of what turns porn addicts on. The amount of people struggling and dying from alcoholism and drug addiction is astounding. Not enough is being done about the problem, and not enough people are talking about it. There is still a stigma where people are afraid to get help, and access to treatment resources are still extremely lacking, especially without insurance. Effing up our climate knowingly for 50 years. BTW. They only confirmed in the 70s that even people in the 19th century thought is will F up our climate in the long run. Could go on for hours. That like more to talk about what is being done and what everyone can do to make a little change, which will force industry to adapt. Climate change. Seriously, I really do think that people in a few generations will be cursing us all for knowing what we are doing and really not making the huge changes necessary to avert what will be a disaster. More than half of all emissions of substances causing global warming have happened since 1990. It's us. Everyone is being overworked and underpaid. The 40-hour work week is outdated for most industries, especially since computers and machines have made all of us more productive per hour. And yet we're getting paid proportionally less each year, while idiots act like you're lazy for wanting a better work-life balance. How Texas is blatantly ignoring the federal government. It sets a terrible precedent, and since it's an issue with borders, it's not just an America problem. From my understanding, part of the issue is that Abbott is trying to declare the influx of illegals a declaration of war, which is not great. The billionaire class could solve problems like world hunger if they chose to. That everyone could be successful if we stopped acting like there was a finite amount of success to be had, but the people with the most like to keep a success ceiling on the people with the least. Lack of leadership and caretaking by the global elite. Let's be honest, none of us will ever be one of them. So the reality is they survive off our product work, spending, etc. They need to make sure we're looked after, or eventually the people will rise up, and that's bad for business. The fact that we went to war for 20 years because some kooks killed 3,000 Americans on 9/11, but we're not even allowed to question the origins of the Chi-Com virus that killed millions around the world. It has become the subject that shall not be named, and for obvious reasons. We could have used the pandemic as a jumping-off point to completely revolutionize how we clean indoor air. It's useful not just for COVID but flu, RSV, common cold, pollution. Instead, we decided we wanted to forget the pandemic ever happened and go back to business as usual. Some argue that large corporations wield excessive power and influence, impacting everything from politics to consumer choices. Others believe strong regulations and fair market competition can address these concerns, while acknowledging potential unintended consequences. I've scrolled way too far, haven't seen anything about the terrorist state that Israel has become, that the US continues to support them. Climate change capitalism is not how a country should run. Term limits, women's rights, that billionaires shouldn't exist. Everyone on the internet who consumes these short media stuff, everyone is so anxious. They don't have patience. They just want to watch a video of 15 segs or whatever and doesn't see the full content, which can lead to disinformation, misunderstandings, 15,000 people die from malnutrition every damn day. 10,000 children starve to death every single day. Too bad they don't make a vaccine for hunger, because then you would be demanding a response. Since it's just ending corporate greed, you all don't care. I'ma start a whirlwind. But liberal crap. Politicians saying crap about nice and good people for no reason. Like down-putting us because we support things that make sense. I'm sick of liberals not knowing that Hamas is a terrorist group. Seriously lagging, and most people are missing the point that we don't have to give up any of our comforts to save the environment if we just fucking use the 100 green technology we've had for decades. Hormone-altering plastic leachates now omnipresent in the environment and in our bloodstreams. Before birth, hormone-altering. Pretty sure the only reason we're not hearing alarm bells is because of how bad the situation is. NATO will collapse soon. If Trump is re-elected, then the US hegemony will collapse as he attempts to appease Putin, who obviously has dirty on him. Trump isn't the cause but the symptom of a critically divided America. Climate change. Dig up your lawn and grow a garden. Also leave a patch of flowers so they have a place to eat. And if you're a celebrity, stop wasting private jet flights for travel you can drive in under 5 hours. The inappropriate use of antibiotics leading to ever-increasing rates of resistant pathogens. Up to 50 of antibiotics used in the hospital are unnecessary, overly broad spectrum, and or used for too long a duration. Shoes. Nobody's feet are shaped like the round toe boxes that conventional shoes have. Seriously, look at your feet and look at the shape of your shoes. Shoes cause bunions, flat feet, back pain. The list goes on.